remember, Trump right now he's in the process of saying these international gangs are terrorist organizations. That's not just a language choice. By defining them as terrorists, he gets to a whole array of extraordinary powers to use to combat his enemies. And let's be really, really clear. This isn't just about cleaning up the streets and getting bad guys off the streets. Although that's true, that's the predicate to do all these other things. To go out and remove people who are here legally, who are protesting against what the administration does not like. That's so deeply un-American. It so profoundly jeopardizes our whole notion, our whole sense of who America is. Again, regardless of whether you are a citizen or not, the Constitution is explicit that you have rights as a person in our country. Any person in our country has constitutional rights. And I'm sorry if I'm getting passionate about this, but this is central to all of the glue that holds the country together. Once that's gone, everything comes undone.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Latino Vote Podcast, coming to you live from Palm Springs, where they got palm trees, and I'm looking at a big old mountain. Man, this is so much better than Sacramento. I could move to California if I could live out here, Mikey.
Sacramento is not the prettiest part of the state. We've got a lot to offer, Chuck, especially if you're from D.C. D.C. is not the most pleasing to the eye place in the world. It's a place you gotta live, as we say, not where you want to live, kind of like Sacramento. But Palm Springs is gorgeous, and it's hot. It's a dry heat, so take care of yourself out there. Hydrate.
Hey, does it get, I bet, what is it now, April? I bet in the middle of the summer out here, it's a sweltering.
$125, easy.
What?
Oh, yeah, easy. Hey, there's still golfers still trying to do it out there. Get out there like 5:30 in the morning and try to wrap up. It's still over 100 degrees. You get up over, before the sun rises, it's still 100. And you try to get in, 9 holes, or if you're crazy, 18. But yeah, 125 easy. Easy.
Well, I'm going to do some golfing. My tee time is at 11:50 in the heat of the day. I'm going to bring 2 different hats in case I sweat through one. Just
Don't
to
wear
be
jeans
careful.
either. Don't wear jeans.
No,
We don't do that.
we
That's
do
a
not wear
Texas thing.
jeans.
On the
No.
golf course, you wear
No.
jeans. That's a Texas thing. It's not a
For
California.
those of you tuning in on YouTube, and you should be subscribing to our page on YouTube, you'll notice that I'm coming to you from one of the finest hotel rooms here in Palm Springs. I was looking at the backdrop. It's nicer than my regular studio. This is the first time I brought the microphone and the laptop all the way on the road, just because I can't miss another week, because Mike's like, twice is a pattern, 3 times. He's all about the numbers and the trends. And I was like, if I not show up again, he's going to kick me off of this podcast. But Mike, it's good to be back. We didn't get to catch up much last week, but I've been getting a lot of great feedback about the Ruben Gallego interview. Have you been hearing the same?
A lot of texts, a lot of emails, big shout out. I mean, obviously we've talked about Ruben a lot on the show and your work there, and what you guys did, which kind of shocked the world a little bit last cycle. And there's a lot of great comments. Comments you let us know on that episode too, especially what your thoughts were. There's a lot of good chatter on it. That comment helps the feed too. Any interaction that we get helps the show, helps us guide what are the guests we should be having on, and what the tone and the tenor should be. I know that there were some people saying you should have asked this, you should have asked that. That's helpful, just because we want to know what it is that you're looking for. But a great episode, great feedback, and again, I'm always reminded of the amount of people and the great people that are part of this show. So thanks for weighing in, everybody.
One of the topics I want to get on this morning, since it's very topical and just happened yesterday, my days get messed up. I don't know how y'all do y'all's time out here on the West Coast. I get so screwed up. But anyway, the El Salvadorian president, Bukele, did I say that right, Mike? Bukele?
Kaylee, yeah.
Yeah. He was with Trump in the White House, where they talked about the detention camps that they built there in the prisons and stuff, and talked about how they're not going to, and actually believe made light of not wanting to bring back, even though it's been court ordered to bring back a legalized immigrant who had came here, married a U.S. citizen, had come here fleeing the gangs and got sent back there. I'm going to give a comment, and then I want to kick it over to Mike about what he thought about that office visit in the Oval Office. I remind everybody, and I want to bring light to this, that my business partner's from El Salvador. She came here 22 years ago. She's been on TPS. She has run presidential campaigns. She's made ads in the Senate races, the congressional races. She is probably the leading Latina operative in Democratic politics. And she's only 30 years old. She's been working with me since she was 23. And she came here when she was 5 years old. And now she's having trouble getting driver's license. She's having trouble getting her extension that Biden had given her. And These are real consequences that are going on. There are people like she didn't get to go, and I told y'all on our retreat when Roberto got married in San Juan last weekend or 2 weekends ago because we were scared for her to travel. Now, keep in mind, this young lady's been here since she was 5 years old. She's followed all the rules. She's probably one of the kindest people I ever met. You know, she's highly religious. She don't drink. She don't cuss. She's been on missionary trips all around America. Her brother just got back from a missionary trip. He was born in the United States. Like good God-fearing, some of the best people I've ever met, and we're worried. Like, we're worried about, like, her showing up at the airport or going on a trip. And so these are real life consequences that America, and I think it's going to have, and I think Mike's alluded to this, there's gonna be some political blowback to some of this shit. Mike, what are you hearing out there?
Well, first is I mean, I'm glad you brought it up because it's the feel of what the country is experiencing right now. And everybody, I think that people are far, far more aware of this than we sense. Um, because without due process, literally that is, law and order doesn't exist for anybody. Once it's gone for one person, the rationale just becomes everybody can become a terrorist if you're not a friend of the regime under any circumstances. And if you think that's far fetched, how the hell do you think this stuff gets started? That's what this is. That's what happens. That's literally what makes us different in this world is we place the Constitution and the law above parties, above politics, above people. We are now at a moment where the administration is saying that is no longer the case. You could argue, and I've heard this argument too, well, he's not a US citizen, so he's not entitled to due process. That is foundationally, fundamentally wrong. The Constitution very explicitly, it's not an interpretation of the Constitution. The Constitution says every person in this country, does not say citizen, says every person in this country is entitled to constitutional rights. They're entitled to due process. Even Antonin Scalia, probably the most conservative jurist in the history of this country, believed very firmly that the undocumented themselves were entitled to due process and to constitutional rights and protections. That's how clear the Constitution is. So we have to recognize that what we're witnessing is not a hypothetical theory that the Trump administration is looking to test. They've done it. Nobody knows where this guy is. Kilmar Abrego Garcia was rounded up, not given his due process constitutional rights, tried by a jury of ICE law enforcement officials with no evidence. This is admitted to by the Trump administration themselves, sent in a plane to a gulag in a foreign country of which we've got no control by design, by the way, because we know this guy does bad stuff to people that are imprisoned and forgotten about. They don't want him back. They don't want him back. And it's a message to everybody else. It's a message to the undocumented. Don't come. This is what happened. But it's more than that. It's a chilling message to opponents of the regime, which is this is now something we do. What are you going to do about it? You think the Supreme Court's going to come up, roll up to the White House with 9 people in robes and force us to bring this guy back? We control the military. We control the awesome power of the federal government. We're it. Dare ya. You think you're gonna get Congress to back your play on this? You think I don't have Mike Johnson on speed dial to do whatever the hell I want to do? You don't think I can tell John Thune what to do here? Like this is the last. We are in the last days of we're already in a constitutional crisis. It's how bad it's going to get. Because let's remember, we're a couple months into this administration. If you don't think this is going to go way past this line with citizens, you don't think that they're going to be currently jailed US born citizens who've been citizens in this country for generations, you're fooling yourself. It's coming. All of this brought us to the question of why are Americans not taking to the streets right now at public opinion polling? And the answer is because up until this point, Donald Trump enjoyed very strong support for people on his deportation plans. Remember, there are all those polls coming out towards the latter part of the election cycle saying even Latinos support mass deportations. Americans broadly support this type of activity. That was all true. We are just now in the last week seeing numbers from Quinnipiac poll specifically dropping and flipping upside down with Trump's position on deportations. Because as I've been saying for a long time, I think you've been saying it too, Chuck, once this stuff becomes real, once it's not hypothetical, once it starts happening, public opinion changes. Everyone likes the idea of having no undocumented here, and no, criminals on the streets, and a roaring stock market, and everyone's got all these fantasized notions of what it's going to mean. But once the reality of what these policies are doing starts to hit home, people are going, "Oh, wait a second. I remember what a chump this guy was the first term. Why the hell did I vote for this guy again? I didn't remember. I thought Sleepy Joe was that bad, or Kamala Harris was gonna, ruin the economy. And yet this guy was telling us he was gonna do this. He does it, and then I'm shocked, shocked, shocked that it actually happens. And I don't like it. And my family is suffering. And my neighbors down the street are hurting. And good people who are doing nothing but trying to raise. He also has, Kilmar Abrego Garcia also has 3 US born children who are citizens. They don't have a father anymore. This guy was a union sheet metal worker, just putting in his 40 a week, hoping to get a little overtime and trying to make it work for his family. And that's what we want. That's what we're trying to build in this country. And so, yeah, public opinion is turning. It was the first poll that I've seen in probably 2 years where the numbers on Trump's deportations have turned upside down. Maybe it's an outlier, but there's no question with the steep, steep, steep drop in public support for the economy and immigration, Trump's 2 biggest pillars of strength, that the tide has turned in this country. People are blaming him for this stuff. They don't like where it's going. And the question now is only, is it too late? Is there anything that can be done with it, even if public opinion turns against them?
In the White House yesterday, the Attorney General, little Marco Rubio, and the rest tried to again mislabel this guy as a possible gang member. They're doing that on purpose. He has no arrest. He's been convicted of nothing. He's been accused of nothing. But they have to do that because they want to have this argument on their terms of the only place in polling that, even though it's starting to slip, is where he has a position of power. Is if you go to folks and say, do you want to deport criminals and gang members? Of course, people are going to say that, but this is not one of them. Sure, if you want to deport gang members, I still have some problems with that, but sure, deport. If they come to this country and you don't follow the rules, this goes back to my business partner. I'm not saying her name on purpose. This also goes back to lots of other folks who, when you were out talking about TPS, it's important for the listeners who want to hold their elected officials accountable that they know that these folks who are under TPS have voluntarily registered with the government. They've had a criminal background check. They have to check in every year. They have to go through all of these hoops to even have this temporary status. They don't just show up here and disappear into the darkness. They're registered. They're saying, we want to be citizens of this country. Many of these TPS recipients came here as children, just like my associate has. And it's important that we put real faces to that because it's not some latent, dark criminal. These are people that want to aspire to do the things that Kilmar was doing, which is he was a sheet metal worker apprentice, just like Charles Rocha. My son was an apprentice. He's in the sheet metal workers union. My son was in the Boilermakers. Excuse me, Boilermakers. He'd kill me. Steam fitters. So it's important that we put real faces on this. And when you're talking to elected officials and they talk about DACA, don't let them talk about DACA without mentioning TPS because these young people are the same. DACA gets a lot of, and as they should, of the popular, everybody thinks these kids come here when they were young. These TPS recipients did too, and I'm scared to death that something will happen on DACA and they walk away from TPS. And you should also know that when Biden, at the last waning moments of his presidency, he extended or TPS recipients for 18 more months. Well, everybody that I know who's tried to log into their portal in the government to renew their TPS because he extended that executive action, the portal is down and it says you should go home. You should self-deport no matter how long you've been here. These are real things that folks are living through. And Trump will consistently rotate back to this because he will paint them all as criminals because he wants to have that argument of Democrats defending, judge defending
Right.
criminals that want to be deported. And that's really, he thinks, his sweet spot for reelection in the midterms to the Republicans, right, Mike?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people who have followed me on other shows or seen what I've written have argued that basically there's no winning issue on this side for either party here. There is, however, a losing side. And my theory of the case has always been that one side, either the Democrats or the Trump folks, are going to lose the war of public opinion on deportations. And what I mean by that is this: both sides have a very strong propensity to overplay their hand. The Democrats, will go out and defend, the violent gang members. Not all of them, but too many of them will go out and protect and defend and say, we need to have these people here. Uh, that's the type of politics that, from my thinking, jeopardizes everybody else who's playing by the rules. The Republicans, for their part, will say, they'll go out and break up families and pull kids from their mother's arms and put them in separate detention camps. Whichever side plays their card first, I think, would lose in the court of public opinion. It seems now Trump has stepped into that void. He's stepped into that gorge, and he's basically doing what you said, which is a great observation, which is they're going to call everybody a terrorist. They're going to call everybody a gang member, right? Remember, Trump right now he's in the process of saying these international gangs are terrorist organizations. That's not just a language choice. By defining them as terrorists, he gets to a whole array of extraordinary powers to use to combat his enemies. And let's be really, really clear. This isn't just about cleaning up the streets and getting bad guys off the streets. Although that's true, that's the predicate to do all these other things. To go out and remove people who are here legally, who are protesting against what the administration does not like. That's so deeply un-American. It so profoundly jeopardizes our whole notion, our whole sense of who America is. Again, regardless of whether you are a citizen or not, the Constitution is explicit that you have rights as a person in our country. Any person in our country has constitutional rights. And I'm sorry if I'm getting passionate about this, but this is central to all of the glue that holds the country together. Once that's gone, everything comes undone. It may come in one rapid move, or it may come drip by drip, but once we're in that place, and we have never been in that place, at least not outside of a War Powers Act, when we did it to the Japanese and interned them during the Second World War, unconstitutionally and with no evidence or validation. Once we go down that road, it forever changes our national character. We become a different people. And that's what we're losing. We're losing our soul here.
I think Mike brings up a great point, and I think it's, I don't know the fancy word, but not hyperbolic or whatever, but it's really important for those of you at home. I did a TikTok. Big on the ticks and the talks yesterday about you should be letting your voice be heard. Congress is in recess. If you feel like you have something to say, you should go to a town hall. You shouldn't be violent. But you have every right to go and voice your opinion. You have every right to go to their offices and stand on a public sidewalk and hold a sign that says, "Hands off my Medicare," or "Stop deporting U.S. citizens." Whatever that is, and however you feel like you should be involved, you should get involved. Whatever your issue may be, right, left, this is what our government, and the point that Mike is making, in my opinion, because I'm not telling you what Mike Madrid thinks, is that there's some fundamental things about our democracy that are pillars that have to stand. And these are some of them that he's talking about that the Constitution is very explicit about. Speaking about pillars and speaking about fighting back, AOC and Bernie have been on the road
Yeah,
getting
wow.
massive crowds. And also this week, nerds, including all of you nerds back there listening to us, know that the FEC reports came out. That means we got to see how much money folks raised in the first 3 months. And for those of you who don't do politics every day, every federal official has to publicly show what they've raised and what they spent every 3 months, and it's publicly disclosed. You can go on the FEC website. And some of those folks, even before it's posted, jump up and tell folks how much they raised. And you would be surprised, again, maybe not surprised, to find out that AOC publicly put out yesterday that she raised $9.5 million in the first 3 months.
It's
And
crazy.
3 of the other top fundraisers in the same quarter were Cory Booker. Sound familiar? Also, Mike, help me out. The Connecticut senator who's been doing a lot,
Chris
who's headed
Murphy.
to Chris Murphy. He raised a ton of money. So Murphy, Booker, AOC, and Bernie were the top 4 fundraisers for
The people who
Democrats
are
because I
raising
think
their voices are raising money. The people who are
exactly.
putting themselves out the tip of the spear are raising money because that's what people want. They want fight. And that, it makes sense. I didn't mean to interrupt, Chuck, but I mean,
All I was gonna finish by saying is that when all money's not equal money, some people raise a lot of money who get PAC checks from corporations or PAC checks from unions and call people all day long and ask them for $3,000. That's the way me and Mike Madrid have seen campaigns run forever. But I'll promise you, AOC and Bernie Sanders or Cory Booker weren't calling people for money. These are people, to Mike's point, that are mad and looking for an outlet, and they gave them 5, 10, 15, $20, and it was a whole bunch of them. Go ahead, Mike.
Average contribution, I understand, was $21.
Wow.
That's crazy. Okay, that means she's raising huge, huge, breathtaking amounts of money, 5, $10 at a clip. That means people are getting active, getting engaged, and I just wanna back up to what Chuck's point is, real quickly on taking action and being able to do stuff. Folks, it ain't gonna get easier as things get worse. Right now is the easiest time, the safest, most comfortable time to express your voice and to take action. And it's the most important time because if you don't now, it gets harder the next time. And if you're not doing it now, what do you think's going to happen next time? And it just keeps going down that slippery slope. So now is the time to show that energy. Now is the time to show that action. To see, I'm not Bernie, Chuck's the Bernie guy in the room. AOC is not my cup of tea, but I am 100,000% proud of them for standing up and catalyzing this energy in this country because it's not about politics anymore. This is about something deeply, deeply foundational to what the country means and what it exists. And I will fight to the last breath to make sure that AOC and Bernie can be out there protesting and talking and rallying on things that I don't agree with. That's the whole point of a democracy, by the way. That is literally the whole point. And so to see people rising up, I think is important, and it's manifesting in people power. It's also manifesting in actual dollar contributions to the people that have the loudest voice. So if you feel like you're alone, if you feel overwhelmed, I guarantee you, you absolutely are not. Regardless of where you're at on the political spectrum, the time to be engaged is now. The time to be visible is now. The time to be loud is now. The time to be present is now. So get to it, guys, because it
Con
matters. It's important.
Congress is out on recess for all of you scoring at home. That means they're in their districts. That means they're back home. And every congressman should be at some level having meetings. So no matter where you're at in the country, you can probably go to your congressman's website and find out if they're having a town hall because they're home now through Easter because it's their recess that they normally have. And this week, I was talking about it this morning early on CNN. You know, there were folks that were tased at a Taylor Marjorie Greene town hall where folks were mad at her. Again, I don't recommend going and getting tased at a town hall. That sounds stupid. You can raise your voice and let her know, even if it's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Also, they were showing who's the 90-year-old senator from Grassley from
Grassley.
Iowa? Some
Yeah.
old, he had a town hall, and everybody in the at medium age in that town hall was 90. But anyway, some old man was just, and politely sitting down, said, are you, asked him, he said, "Are you proud to be behind this president?" In a very calming 90-year-old voice, and Grassley just said, I disagree with lots of presidents I've worked with," and just turned away from him and asked for another question
Yeah.
because he was shook that anybody would ever question his loyalty when they were saying, "Why are you being beholden to a wannabe dictator?" With again, y'all, without setting any trash cans on fire, without getting tased, just an old man in an audience who Grassley recognized where he got to ask that question with the cameras on Grassley that you could tell made Grassley very
He
uncomfortable.
he
That's
was
our
shook.
job as citizens is to make electeds uncomfortable on the right or the left and do it in a respectful way that makes them have to be accountable. You know, Mike's talked a lot about the kowtowing of lots of folks in the party. You know, Mike's had to leave his party in the boats at the shore because he wasn't going to kowtow to a wannabe dictator. Well, there's a lot of folks who are getting a free ride and think that they're getting a free thing out of Donald Trump. So go to these town halls and let your voice
It
be
was
heard.
wild to see Grassley's town hall. The old dude, he's in his 90s. Bunch of old people in their 80s and 90s were pissed.
Woo!
Just pissed and letting them have it. And I'm like, "Good for you, Iowa." It's like a bunch of old white Christian people saying this is not very Christian. This is not very American. And there are Republicans in that room. These are down home, salt of the earth
Oh, for
people.
sure.
These are farmers. These are neighbors. And they were pissed. And they were saying,
People that love Medicare and Social Security.
yeah, and love, and by the way, a lot of the action, the fight was over Kilmar. They
Oh,
were
that's a good
going,
point.
"What are you doing?" And I
That's
love
right.
seeing these 90-year-old white-haired, old white people from the heartland going,
Blue
"What are
hair.
you gonna do to get this illegal immigrant back from El Salvador?" Like, I love to see it. I'm like, "That's what America is. That's what it is right there." It's like it's his rights are our rights. And once his go away, ours go away. And you can't be
Right.
here as a senator playing your bullshit games, Chuck Grassley, who we've known for 60 years. And he was scared, man. He was not comfortable. He was not used to that at all. And he was good.
These
He had
folks
it
are
coming.
not used these electeds, and Mike can tell you about this. When you live in this bubble, and this ain't Democrat or Republican, see me kissing Mike Madrid's ass. This is just being facts. Is if you're Democrat or Republican, you keep yourself in this little bubble, you don't get many folks that tell you you're wrong. You know, if you have a really good chief of staff, they should tell you you're wrong from time to time, but most of the time they don't get checked. And I can tell you from the egomaniacs I've worked for that they get full of themselves and they think they know it all. And that's when we start. It's what made Democrats get in the position we're in right now, to be honest with you. We think we know better than working folks. We need to explain to them why our policies are the best instead of just showing up and listening and doing things that helps them have more affordability. As we talk about the town halls, I want to pivot to something that also happened this week right before the recess, the last day before the recess. We had talked about it last week, but Ruben was on and we want to get that done. Is the House passed the outline of a budget bill. And this is really important for all of you at home because this bill may single-handedly be where we make all of our TV ads for the midterms. I'm currently out here in California on a House retreat with a bunch of House members who are meeting with lots of folks out here. And we know that there's going to be a lot of TV commercials made about what's in this budget because they've agreed to in this budget to at least cut $1.5 trillion of spending, which sounds good. I'm all about cutting waste and all about efficiencies, but there's no way to do that without going in and cutting some pretty important programs. You couple that on top of what Doge is doing and Elon Musk and why you're seeing what you're seeing in these town halls, it's a recipe for disaster, especially if Donald Trump continues his trade war with China on the economy to where it could really bode, and I hate giving Mike credit, it bode for what Mike talked about almost 2 months ago when he said it's being set up to where it could be the possibilities of the ingredients for a wave election when you have an unpopular president. You have people wanting to literally on paper talk about the cuts they want to make in essential services to Americans. And then you have a stock market and 401ks in the tank. That's when you move from 20 marginal seats to 60. Mike?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, it's a long way off, and every day feels like a year sometimes in this environment. But if you look at just the what we call the fundamentals, right? Where's consumer confidence at? Where's job approval at? Where's the direction of the market heading? Where's the economy looking? By the way, people haven't talked a whole lot about this, but you're starting to see Democrats pop up above Republicans now in who people want to see control Congress. So remember that historic low that we were talking about, I think a couple weeks ago, Chuck? Might have been the week before you left, might have been while you were gone, I don't know. Showing that Democrats were sitting at a 29, the lowest rated, party,
That's a
numbers that it
CNN poll, and it was at 29.
that's a 29. Though we're now seeing Democrats top Republicans. And I'm saying that not just for a reason. And the main reason is because people have to understand that races are about a choice between two things. It's a contrast. And they don't necessarily have to like you, they just have to like you a little bit more. They just gotta like you enough. Or
That's
or
right.
dis or dislike your opponent more, right? And that's where it's at. So, and as Chuck and I have talked at great length, and we're gonna talk about this a lot more over the coming weeks and months, but my great fear for the Democratic Party, and like I said, Mike Madrid, who cares about what he thinks about the Democratic Party? Fair enough. But my great fear for the Democratic Party is this: it's not gonna learn its lesson before it goes into the midterms and it wins big. And the reason why that's dangerous is because that's not a good sign for the presidential campaign. All of this hand wringing and teeth gnashing and navel gazing and lighting your hair on fire as Democrats. Who are we? What is this? Why aren't people standing up? What should we be doing? Why aren't people doing more? That's all a good part of a losing party's process to figure it out. Is it Cory Booker? Is it Kamala Harris again? Is it going to be Gavin Newsom? Gavin makes mistakes. Booker does, looks like a champion. All of the stuff is going to change, but the process is the party and the people deciding who's going to become its standard bearer, both on message and as a candidate. That's good.
I
Go ahead.
Look, this ain't that kind of podcast. I don't know about all that navel gazing and all of that. This is a PG podcast. So if you're gazing at the navels, you need to go on to another podcast. I would also say that it's important to talk about upcoming things that are happening. We talked about the Florida special elections that happened. We talked about the crazy election that happened in Wisconsin where we
Awesome.
overperformed and won a Supreme Court race there by like 9 points.
Yeah.
So There's another special coming up that's very important that I want to talk more about, but I want to mention it today for y'all because this is the Latino Vote podcast. Again, like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Uh, the amazing, long-standing icon, progressive Latino, all the things, Raul Grijalva died while I was off.
Yeah.
And he had had a battle with cancer. Good dude. We were talking about him last night. I miss him so much. He was just like the old professor, the old goat, and God rest his soul. He died, and there's going to be a special election. Life goes on, and you have to have an election. There's in Congress, you have to keep representation, and it's up to the executive in the state to set a special election. They've set the special election for later this summer. This is a very Democratic seat, very Democratic. Whoever wins the primary will be the congressperson. This seat takes in part. It's really unique, Mike. It takes in half of Tucson, then it goes down to the border, and it takes in all the border from like Nogales all the way to California. And
Oh,
then there's a little arm because there's not enough people there to make a congressional district. So then they go north with a little, I'd call it a sliver, up into um, Phoenix to take in some of the poorest, brownest parts of Phoenix. Now, the
okay.
Republicans, as you can imagine, built this district for Democrats so that Republicans could easily get elected. So it's all the Democrats that weren't in Rubin's congressional seat in Phoenix, and then half of the Democrats because Tucson's all Democrats, and then they put the whole border in. So that's your
Gotcha.
congressional district for the 7th congressional district. Now, I bring this up because it's going to be really unique to watch. Some things have happened here in the 7th congressional district. First of all, Adelita Grijalva is the congressman's daughter. She is a
Uh-huh.
county supervisor in one of the larger counties. She has announced she's going to try to run to fill her father's shoes. She's a dear friend. Love her. I'm not on a campaign. Hope maybe or maybe run an IE. I don't know yet. We'll see. But she's a dear friend. And ironically, last week before that, before we did the podcast, no, it was the day we actually had Ruben on. There was a big fundraiser in DC, and you should know that Mark Kelly, Ruben Gallego, all endorsed her.
Oh,
Which is normally you don't see these senators and people like that get involved in a Democratic primary in a
okay.
Democratic seat because
Yeah.
whoever wins. So that's one candidate. The other candidate I want to mention, and this is why I brought it up on the Latino Vote podcast, is a guy named Daniel Hernandez, another Latino. This will be a Latino on Latino primary. Daniel Hernandez worked for Gabby Gifford.
Hmm.
He was with Gabby when she got shot. And again, Gabby Gifford's wife is Senator Mark Kelly, and he endorses Adelita. And that's really interesting. The other interesting part of this that we'll be watching is this big friction between APAC and the Muslim PACs. And currently, Daniel Hernandez has the backing of APAC, and Adelita, she's not really a lefty in that sense. And I know she's met with them. I've heard this through, I can't, confirm or deny any of these are just rumors that, she's not some left-wing zealot, but her daddy was very left-wing. This is a left-wing district. You can be very progressive here like the AOC district. So
Right.
it will be interesting. And I mentioned this to all you nerds because this is why you come to the podcast is this will set up as an interesting dynamic if APAC, who we've seen come in to beat Bowman in New York, beat Cori Bush in St. Louis, if they come in with that vigor here, and vigor to me is somewhere between $1 million and $10 million of an IE, it goes a long way in a low turnout Latino district. And I know Michael want to speak to this because he's seen this as well. And then if you have on the other side, both U.S. senators, BOLPAC and the Hispanic Caucus hasn't weighed in yet, but this is a place where I could see them maybe doing that since one of their members and their member's daughter running. So I'm fascinated by this race in the middle of the summer when nobody's voting. Mike, I know I just put all that on you and you hadn't been tracking this, but what is your thoughts on that?
I think it's great. That's why I love doing the show. First, I want to know if people want us to pick our nose in their pick our nose. That's Chuck's purview. Stick our nose under this tent a little bit more and maybe get some of these people that are going to be involved on the show. I don't know if it's appropriate for you, Chuck. We're
Oh,
already going to be doing the work, but if you're
right.
not, maybe we get the candidates on separately. I mean, not on the same show, but let's ask them. Let's go ask APAC. What are their aims? What are they doing here in some of these districts? If you're up for it, I mean, it
Y'all should
might be a
know
little
that
bit.
I'm going to interrupt, Mike. Y'all should know that we called it a Latino seat, but this is a Latino seat. Like I bet
Ah,
the population is 70% Latino, Mike.
Yeah, well, that I think that we are justified in reaching out and saying, "Hey, we wanna have you guys on the show." All these players, like, this is a determinative direction of the Latino vote because it is such a Latino seat. Like, we're fully justified in saying, "Let's have Adelita on. Let's have Danny on. Let's have APAC on." I'd be interested just to see how this thing shakes out. I'd love to stick our nose into this
Stick it in
race.
there.
Be very
Easy.
careful. I know.
BPG, navel gazer. Now look, I think that this is gonna be super interesting. There's a lot of people in Southern Arizona who wear a cowboy hat like Chuck Rocha, show up in a fancy Guayabera. If you notice my shit here today, I'm all
Mhm.
fancy because I'm on the road. But I think it tells a lot about the ideological makeup of this district. You got a bunch of rednecks like me that are Mexican rednecks in pickup trucks and belt buckles. But you also have cities, like you take in part of Phoenix. So that's what really intrigues the Latino consultant in me is like which part. Now, again, normally in these races, for all of you folks at home, you what I call Monday morning political quarterbacks. Normally, it's whoever spends the most money in one of these primaries. It's just how it always has worked. But we're in a different time. That's why it's so uniquely interesting to me. Where you have was Grijalva a great thing or a bad thing? Because right now, as Mike Madrid would say, it ain't that sexy to be an incumbent or be tied to an incumbent. Sometimes it's better to be an outsider, hence the AOC and Bernie thing, even though they're elected, they're still seen as outsiders. That's why I think we're going to talk about this race a lot, and it's not for another 3 months. I think the date is in September, might be August, to watch like, how is this unfolding? I could see Mike us putting on TV commercials that APAC or BullPAC or whoever gets behind who is running to show our audience to get their feedback on the way that this
Let's do
primary is
that.
running in real time, right?
Yeah, let's do some analysis. We'll get some of those shows. Let's try to get the candidates. Let's try to cover as much as we can. I don't know how well you know the teams on either side, but they're
They're
always a phone
picking
call
teams on
away.
Adelita's this week.
Okay.
If we get chosen, I'll let you know. If
Yeah.
we don't, then I'm not going to be bitter. There's plenty of work. But Daniel's team, I saw in Politico yesterday that he had announced his team. So they've got a team together and they're going to go
Let's
at
get
it
their
now.
teams on too. Let's get their teams on too. Talk about the strategy, how they're gonna win the vote, what they're gonna do. Let's really look at it. I mean, I think it's important in a 70% plus Hispanic district, especially one like this, where it's a battleground state where Ruben showed
Oh,
that
that's
this
right.
vote can break in different directions. Like
Yep.
this is battleground Latino seat that's gonna be determinative on which way the vote's gonna go. How do you talk to working class Latinos? How do you talk to Latinos in a border seat? How do you talk to urban Latinos in Phoenix? That district has it all. And it's Grijalva's old seat. I mean, let's do it.
And we'll be keeping our eye also for you nerds on Texas 18. Much different scenario. This was the Sheila Jackson Lee seat where the mayor, who was at the State of the Union, who filled her seat, died unexpectedly. So now but in Texas, the governor of Texas is being sued because he knows, because again, the executive can decide when the special election is, and he's supposed to do it within 90 days. But the governor of Texas, who's an asshole, he was like, well, folks in Harris County, keep in mind, Harris County is bigger than like 18 states, but Harris County, because that's where Houston is, don't know how to run elections. So we're going to put off the special election until November on a regular election date of November of 2025 and put it off till the fall of November because guess what the governor wants to do, Mike? He wants to keep that seat vacant so Republicans have have more of a majority to get through this budget bill that I just told you about. So he's trying to delay the special election because this is also a Democrat plus 40 seat.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Uh,
craziness is, but for all of you Latino vote listeners, you should know that it's a black seat. It's always had a black representative. But guess
right.
what's the largest growing group of folks there are?
And that's not
Latinos.
uncommon. That's Latinos, and that's going to keep happening. And again, some of these challenges with black power structures and growing Latino strength is going to be happening. I know you've seen this happen in different parts of Texas. This was very common in the 90s in Los Angeles, California. Still, Los Angeles specifically, it's still happening. I'm going to ask you a question about another seat,
Oh,
if you don't mind.
I love this.
The Cuellar seat. Myra Flores just
Oh,
announced she's moving into that seat to run against them.
packed her bags and moved right on down the border.
Yeah. What do you think? What's going on there? That's the
This
same
is
for
old.
Dempsey, right?
This is old school district shopping, as we would say. She's moving to that district because that district is more Republican. She's moving to that district because Henry Cuellar is under federal investigation or indictment. Remember, the FBI raided him in his whole office.
Oh, that's right.
He's still under that. It hadn't been settled. He could go to jail tomorrow for all we know. It was something about, is it Barjan, you know these countries. What's it called? The
Azerbaijan?
countries, Azerbaijan. Yeah. Say it again. What's it?
Azerbaijan. Oh,
Artie
God.
Marjans and all of them. That's where it was, and that's where some money was being exchanged. But I'm not saying he did anything wrong. He hasn't been
Yeah.
convicted of anything, but they are looking at him. So Myra Flores, for all of you remember back home, she got elected a special election under the old lines in the 34th district that's anchored in Brownsville. It's currently
Yeah.
held by Vicente Gonzalez, was a D+11 seat until this last election where Vicente only wins by 3 or 4, but it was a +11. I think Vicente will bring those numbers back, and I don't know if anybody will ever represent that district as a Democrat again, except for Vicente. He is a great match, good friend. I think he does a great job down there. But Henry Cuellar, I'm pointing towards Laredo, because Laredo is where that is, and it ain't next door. Laredo from Brownsville is 4-hour drive. Hell, I bet it
Oh,
maybe
wow.
6. It's a long way.
That's
And
a
that
big place.
district goes from the border of Laredo to San Antonio. It's got an anchor district in San Antonio. It looks like my fist. For all of you on YouTube, you should be looking at this right now. There's a thing going on where you can watch. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then there's Laredo down here.
We're gonna put a Si Se Puede graphic over that, by the way.
So here's San Antonio, this fist, and this is Laredo. And there's an interstate that looks like a dumbbell. So, like, this is the district. But this is the most important part, because I get excited about these congressional races. It's the only thing I know more about than Mike Madrid. It is that this is a R+1, D+1, like it's a way more marginal seat. But they have been, even Democrats, progressive Democrats, been trying to beat Cuellar now for 8 years. They can't beat him. Republicans can't beat him because he is an institution in Laredo. The county judge's family, the county commissioners are family. That's all I'll say about that. Let's just say there's lots of family business in Laredo, Texas. And his on his applications of what he is, he's an import-export something or another's, but he is highly involved. Let's just leave it that way.
And there's gonna be a ton of national money with Myra Flores going into that seat. I mean, it will be more competitive than we think, but again, the fundamentals of the race, the mood of the electorate, all of this stuff breaking against Republicans is gonna be determinative, but it does say something that Myra Flores is moving in. Maybe we ought to reach out to people on that campaign too. There's a whole lot to talk about as we hit the stretch of this thing. And again, we're not near the stretch of the midterms, but there's a lot shaking with a lot of these districts. A lot is happening. A lot we have to be focused on. Any other races we should be keeping an early eye on?
I would say 2 things. One is, let's start. People are announcing earlier, Mike, to this fundraising thing. There was a young guy named Randy Vieques who just announced in California 22. He's on the school board there. He's a community college professor, family with farm workers. Randy's going to be a great candidate. There'll be lots of candidates in California 22. There's a Latina named Mendoza who just announced in Arizona 6, which is the district next to Grijalva, which takes the other part of Tucson. There are like 3 Latinos running in Colorado 8. That's a seat we lost. That was Yadira Caravello. And I could do this all day. So we may just do a special thing on who are all the Latino candidates on the Dem and the Republican side who are running. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention on the podcast, since it is my podcast with Mike Madrid, that me and Tony Cardenas, who is here with me this week, rolled out and announced a brand new Latino super PAC. Please go to CampeonesPAC.com. Follow us on the social media. Campeones PAC is putting together a group of advisors like Mike Madrid, Albert Morales, Christian Ramos, pretty much all of our friends, and saying, look, we can all do this better. Now, I haven't given Mike Madrid some giant retainer or any of those other folks that I mentioned in case y'all were looking for a paycheck. Right now, we're just trying to raise money. Once we get the money raised, then we're going to get with folks and figure out the best way to spend it doing one thing. We have one objective, and that's to get more Latinos out and more Latinos out voting, for Democrats, because that shift has been bad. And we've been trying to figure out how to get it back. And we've been over-relying on other super PACs and the Democratic Party. And in the Great Washington Post piece written by our sister Sabrina Rodriguez, we spelled it out. And I said in a quote, look, I've been waiting on the party to fix this for many cycles, and I'm tired of waiting, so I'm just gonna do it myself. So I'm happy to be doing it with Tony and lots of other folks, and we're going to be working in races. We're gonna have Tony on. We're gonna talk about what we're doing, show ads, have strategy here. But I'm really excited about the kickoff of that, Mike. And thank you for your help and advisement on it as well.
Yeah, of course, however it can be helpful. Campeones, the Campeones PAC, former Congressman Tony Cardenas, he's been a guest on the show in the past. Uh, Good friend of Chuck Rocha's. I've known Tony since he was right after his realtor days in the San Fernando Valley, watching him rise and kind of create one of the great
That's
political
right.
machines in the San Fernando Valley. I mean, he still looks the same age too, which is so frustrating. Like he's got the great hair, great skin, great energy. I
He takes
ran
good
into
care of
him.
himself.
Yeah, I ran into him. I was having lunch down with a lobbyist down in town a couple weeks back, and he walks by, and I was like, "Hey, Tony." And he's like, "Hey, Mike, what's going on?" It's just obviously great to just run into each other. But I'm glad that you guys are doing that. It's exciting. It's needed, and I think you guys are going to fill a very big void. I'm sure it was very well received when you guys made the announcement down there.
Lots of good feedback. Also, for all of you listening, reminder that White House Correspondents' Dinner is coming up on the 26th. I'm trying to get Mike Madrid to come to D.C. We're going to have our annual Brown and Bougie brunch. We're going to be recognizing a couple of journalists that y'all are going to recognize from this program, both of which have been on this program. We're going to give away some scholarships to Hispanic journalist students. More importantly, we're going to have lots of good Mexican food. You can come by and see my rock star wife, Ebony Payne, who'll be signing autographs. If we can get Mike Madrid out of Sacramento, I'm trying to talk him into coming. He wants $20,000 for a retainer fee to come do a guest appearance, but I'm trying to get him just to show up and try to build
Yeah,
something else around it.
yeah,
So it'll be a great weekend, White House course. We'll probably do one more of these podcasts before then, but put
yeah.
that on your calendar for my friends listening. If you're in DC, because there's no invite list, it's just Chuck Rocha's friends. So let me know and I can get you in, as they say in the business.
He
You know what I'm
knows a
saying, Mike?
guy. He knows a guy.
You damn right I do. And I want to thank all the folks that are here at the retreat this week with me doing some good work. Leader Aguilar and all the folks have been super nice to me, especially with my history in the past of bad mouthing the party as much as I have. They have really, really welcomed me in. They take my input. I've been listening and talking to lots of folks here. It's been great. And also today is April the 16th. I just realized, happy birthday to my son, Charles Little Rocha. With the Rocha boys up in Pittsburgh, that Union Steamfitter, Charles Rocha should be 35 years old. I was
Wow,
on a
happy
milk route
birthday.
delivering milk when I got a call from the hospital that his mama had went into labor, and I remember hitchhiking on a semi-truck down Interstate 20 to get back to Tyler so I could be there when he was born in this big head. 35 years old. I put on Twitter this morning and on Instagram as the best part of Chuck Rocha is my son, because he is, I wish someday I would be half the father he is. He's a good man, and
Oh,
happy birthday
wow.
to my son.
Congratulations to Big Rocha, Little Rocha, the Rochas. Good for
Charles
you
Allen.
guys. Charles Allen Rocha, happy birthday, brother. Great to have you part of the family. We'll have you on sometime too. Your dad talks
Oh,
about
no,
you
we
so
don't.
much, so proud of you. No, this is a sugar mom. No, we're not gonna do
Don't
that.
forget to listen. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget I fish to call Charles and tell him I love him and tell him happy birthday. Call your mom and dad. Don't forget to listen, review. As Mike said, we want to hear your feedback. Who should we have on? We'll jump into this Arizona 7 thing. Don't forget to do all the things that we ask you to do, or I will come find you. I'll talk to you later. Y'all be good.